such good friends, I would feel like that you were a little jealous that I'm a wrestler. You know, every week you have to watch me, your friend, walk down the aisle while music plays and everyone's looking at me and there's a ring at the end. To be fair, I get pinned by big sweaty guys, but I get paid millions of dollars. When you do it, it's just for like Waffle House and a ride home.
Because he's had 3 concussions, so I'm always worried that he's gonna have CTE. But I know you're never gonna kill yourself, because if there's one thing you don't have in your house, it's a belt.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mocha. Your name is not. I'm the host of this beautiful platform. And if the audio picked up correctly, and I'm going to assume that it did, what you just heard was an excerpt from Dolph Ziggler's stand-up comedy routine that he does on a regular basis, because WWE, for whatever reason, doesn't really find him to be an appealing character or an appealing character model for wrestling, despite the fact that the man has many different accolades, including a Hall of Fame induction into the college that he wrestled for. The college that he wrestled for in Ohio. And he actually set a record, if I remember correctly. Jim Ross talked about it one time, or Michael Cole, one of the two, that record being 88 pins in a season. I'm not really sure how... Yeah, actually I am sure how hard that could be in an entire season of collegiate amateur wrestling. That must be quite the feat to pull off, or for that matter, try to top, something like 88 pins in one season. Like, are you joking? And I'm going to assume that the audio picked up a joke that perhaps made you laugh. That's Dolph Ziggler. That's his comedy routine. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, though, what exactly does that have to do with today's lesson, if you will, today's itinerary? And then this is the part where I say that last week I had fun. This week I've not been having any fun at all. I was at work like 4, maybe 5 days, and I can't smile. I can't find a rhythm to go to sleep at night. I can't even go to the bathroom without thinking about it. And of course, it is Sami Zayn. 5 minutes in, and I've already said his name. But I wanted to take some time and not just like, the entire first half of this episode. I wanted to know what it is that drives people to like someone like Sami Zayn. What exactly is it that makes him so followable? Like, I'm struggling for words to find something to say, but something positive even to say about him, because there's nothing but negative things to say. Because I've rehearsed this speech in my head 10 billion, 16 bazillion, and 99 times, trying to think of a way to get all of you to stop tuning in to all of his segments. One of those reasons is that he's not consistent. One of those other reasons is that he lacks character development. One of those other reasons is that he's not entertaining. One of those other reasons is because he's not funny. He's not a joy to be around. He's not someone that you would just automatically look on your television and you say, oh God, like anytime that I would go to watch TV, I would try to look for a TV show that I actually liked. It's a crazy concept. It's a crazy fucking thing. Anytime that I would go to watch TV, I would look for Hoarders or TLC or something on the Discovery Channel so that I might learn something today, or Dual Survival. I'm name dropping a lot of TV shows beyond Scared Straight. In the morning, if I was waking up and I could catch it in time, there were 4 TV shows that I absolutely adored to watch, but I can't watch them anymore because I got a fucking job, and my world doesn't exactly revolve around TV anymore. Back when I was 16, it did, but that's not the point. The point is that I would like to watch shows like Steve Wilkos, wonder what it would be like to be on there, even a part of the audience member, or for that matter, the guy being accused of doing something absolutely terrible, like hiding a body, or something like leaving a bruise or a bite mark on a child. Just something crazy, something wacky, something off the walls. Oh my God, whip me with a belt. Somebody show me some sort of excitement in my life, because I haven't seen it since 1995. Jerry Springer, where you would see people get on there and be like, hey, I had a threesome with your wife and your husband, and it would be a whole big mess because there's some transgender fuck out there who's actually having a sexual relationship with both of them. Or Steve Wilkos, Deal or No Deal. It's not, hang on, it's Let's Make a Deal, rather, not Deal or No Deal. Or if there was a 4th TV show that I'd have to wake up in the morning and watch, it would be with Bob Barker or Drew Carey. The Price is Right. The Price is Right. Yeah. So, anyway, with that being said, I always found it to be amusing that the host of the show, much like the host that I'm doing now, I'm hosting a show, but it's a crazy concept, actually. The hosts of the show actually have something that Sami Zayn doesn't. They're relatable. Sami Zayn doesn't have a relatable bone in his body. It's almost like everyone treats Sami different. And I don't know why. That's the golden question. That's the $1 million question. And don't worry, we'll get to the $1 million questions. Because there's another one. No, it's not $1 million. It's more like $100,000. Don't worry, we'll get to that by the end of this episode. I promise. But the $1 million question is why? What makes Sami Zayn so special in your eyes? So, I went to Twitter and I got a lot of hate about it. Yeah, most definitely, lots of hate. I gotta say, they're really looser now that Elon Musk owns Twitter. It's crazy. I can tweet a lot of different things that I couldn't before, as long as they don't have certain words, certain trigger words, like, hurt is one of them. You can't say the word hurt. Can't say the word retard. These are all examples, by the way. I'm not actually saying. You can't say bomb. You can't say certain trigger words. You get where I'm coming from here, right? That you just can't say because they have something called a TOS, a terms of service. In order for them to stay in on the internet as an application, they have to abide by certain laws and certain rules. You would figure that I would have to abide by those same rules, but I follow my own set of rules. Thank you all for joining me, by the way. My name is Mocha. Don't know if I already said that. But like I said, I've basically been sitting here trying to figure out what it is that people like about this man. Why is it that if Sami Zayn joined ISIS, you would all follow suit like the sheep that you are? Why is it that if Sami Zayn did a terrorist bombing, you all would praise him for it? And the only feasible explanation that I can come up with, such as him being in the center of the ring, in the middle of SmackDown Live, and for whatever reason he says something stupid like Usi, and you all just have to hashtag it for whatever reason. You all have to hashtag it. And I seem to be the only one who sees through the facade. Sami Zayn is supposed to be a heel, people. Do you not understand that? What sense does it make that he's smiling and that he's having fun and that he's coming out making someone like Roman Reigns, who, by the way, is number 1 ranked in a top 500 list. And if Roman is ranked number 1 and Sami is ranked like 37 to 40, somewhere around there, which he doesn't deserve that ranking, by the way. He deserves to be, if there was a 500 top list, he would deserve to be like 1,000, Like that would be, like they would make a 501 to 1,000, and then he would be right there at the bottom, 1,000. Here's your gold medal, here's your bronze medal. We went ahead and it's a scratch and sniff too. It smells like shit. It smells like what you would smell like, seeing as though that you're 1,000 place. Or 999 places behind the leader. You get where I'm coming from, right? If Sami Zayn I'm trying so hard to word this in a way that you all would understand. It's almost like he's the special kid in class, right? And anything that he does, we have to praise. We have to make him feel good about himself. Because if we do not, then his parents are going to come in and they're not going to be happy about the way that we're treating him or something. It's got to be one of those things. He's so stupid that, because grown-ass adults usually don't, like, conform to this kind of subjective media. All he did was make a face. All he did was open his fucking mouth and just left it open. Be careful there, Sammy. A fly might, fly in your mouth. There might be a fucking stink bug in your mouth and you not know it. But no, you're just standing there with your mouth wide open, looking around with those goofy eyes. It's who he reminds me of, is a combination of Goofy from the Disney Channel. Well, golly, hurt. Max's dad. An extremely goofy movie. They would make a sequel about fucking Sami Zayn. And yes, I didn't want to spend the first 20 minutes talking about this. Of course I didn't. Because I have better things to do with my life than worry about what some dipshit from Ontario is doing on a television show that I can't even watch anymore. But it pains me because I have a passion for professional wrestling. That's where the buck stops for me, because I can't stand seeing some, and I'm struggling to find a word because I don't want to sound like the bad guy here, and I can't stand to see some retard making the business that I love look like nothing more than it's a comedy routine, when in fact the only clown is him. He's the one clown. Everybody else seems to have some sort of special talent that they can actually pull off on a consistent basis. But he seems to have only one talent, and that's, for whatever reason, making a lot of you, the viewer, the listener right now, who's probably getting so offended that they're turning off my podcast, because you're like, well, I didn't sign up for this just to be ridiculed by some dumbass on the internet. Listen, I'm trying to tell you what you're doing wrong. I don't want to hate watch WWE. I don't want to watch WWE at all if this is how they're going to act, if this is what their programming is going to be consistent of the next few years. The PG era is over. I thought we were past the PG era. How am I supposed to take Roman Reigns seriously as a threat or as a champion if all he does is try to hold back laughter because there's a clown in the midst of what's supposed to be the biggest threat, or for that matter, the biggest champion since JBL. The only reason that they're running the Bloodline storyline, by the way, is because they want you to forget about who the champion was before before Roman Reigns, who held the title for almost as long as Roman Reigns. CM Punk. You held it for like 489 days or 599 days or something like that. the last count that I had was him coming to the ring and saying, "For 489 days, I've been your reigning, defending champion." And they're using the same guy that they used before, Paul Heyman. It's okay. It's fine. We're 20 minutes in, and I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen, because I didn't want to lowball and go this far. I planned on maybe talking about it for 10 minutes. I've got a lot on my mind because, like last week, I just kept scrolling through Twitter. And what do you know? There's someone that just keeps popping up. And this time, it wasn't R-Truth, unfortunately. This time, it was Sami Zayn. And I got into a bunch of Twitter arguments and fights. And here's where the ball's gonna drop. The final nail in the coffin for anyone who is a Sami Zayn fan. I feel as though that I should have opened the argument with this. That way that's the first thing that you hear whenever you come onto my podcast. The final nail in any Sami Zayn fan or supporter is the fact that if you get mad because I tell you the truth on Twitter or anywhere else, if you block me, or for that matter, if you decide that it's a good idea to clap back whenever I sent a tweet to either Sammy or Kevin, you, I hate to tell you this, but you're further reinforcing the facts that I'm throwing out. If I tweet to Sami Zayn and say something simple like, "You're not entertaining, go home," then I can see why you would clap back. But whenever I tweet to Sami Zayn a picture of him in clown makeup and a big red nose, you just get butt hurt. And what you end up doing is making yourself look like even more of a clown than he is. By saying, "Why would you do that? He's not a clown." And then I have to proceed to bury you as much as I'm burying him. This week, ladies and gentlemen, now that I've got that out of the way, we looked at Survivor Series 2003. So, here's the thing. I was going to look at Survivor Series 1999, where Steve Austin got run over by a truck, car, SUV, limo. I'm not really sure. All that I remember is growing up. When I was growing up, I would see constant reminders everywhere. Like, that was probably their biggest storyline thus far. It must have been like 6 months. I want to say 4 or 5 months before they finally stopped showing each and every week. It would be like you couldn't turn on the TV without seeing like highlights of, "Ladies and gentlemen, here's what happened," and then you would see that same old grainy footage of someone running over Steve Austin. And then each and every week they would play it back and back and back again, almost like that they were just looking to fill time. But this week, I couldn't look at Survivor Series 1999 because upon doing further research and watching other YouTubers and stuff like that, like I watch other people who rate wrestling matches and stuff like that. One, Brian Zane, for instance. And, I mean, he's okay. He's alright. I'm not mad at him at all, I guess. But it came to a point to where I was like, I can't watch what he's going to watch because he's going to think that I'm, ripping him off. Or for that matter, I didn't know when his video was going to drop, so I didn't want to, like, if his video comes up on the night that or on the morning that my podcast drops, then it's going to look a little bit, shady. So I decided not to do anything shady, not to do anything off color, if you will. So I decided to look at what I would consider the next best thing. Survivor Series 2003. The reason that we're looking at Survivor Series is obviously because it's November. Turkey is in the air. And, well, one November tradition to another, to us wrestling fans, Survivor Series has to be one of those November traditions. So this week we looked at Survivor Series 2003. Opening hype package is a little over the top, saying how will they survive? Do they have what it takes to survive? And it's all about survival. That's what they let you know, clear and to the point. They let you know that will the men in these matches later on tonight have what it takes to survive? And will someone cast judgment on someone else? And they're, of course, talking about The Undertaker and Mr. McMahon. How McMahon threatened to have The Undertaker's rife? Holy crap. Who am I, Scooby-Doo? How McMahon threatened to have the Undertaker's wife, there we go, raped, have her children kidnapped, and have his house blown up. Yes, these are all things that Mr. McMahon said to Paul Heyman that he would want to happen to The Undertaker in preparation for this match. And that's a little dark, don't you think? Why would you want to have his wife raped? Why would you want to have his children kidnapped? And why in the hell would you want to blow up the man's house? Okay. But we're not... That's the semi-main event. We'll get to that whenever we get to it. And a lot of that doesn't make sense. Okay, so Survivor Series 2003 opening package. First match of the night is the traditional elimination tag team match. A 5-on-5 as Team Teddy Long faces off against Team Angle. Team Brock Lesnar faces off against Team Kurt Angle. John Cena, Chris Benoit, JBL Bradshaw, Hardcore Holly, and Kurt Angle. This is a 5-on-5 traditional elimination tag team match. A Big Show, A-Train, Nathan Jones, Matt Morgan, and Brock Lesnar. Each one of these men weigh at least 300 pounds. So I ran out of paper, so I had to put it on the backside, everything that happens. And one thing that really got me was the fact that the WWE Championship is not being defended. That's on a major pay-per-view that they have. They have at least once a year. And the U.S. Championship will not be defended because the Big Show is the United States Champion. I feel as though that maybe we could have only done one, not two, but one 5-on-5 traditional tag team match so that we could have two more matches. A WWE Championship match where SmackDown's two competitors would face off. Maybe Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, or maybe Chris Benoit and Brock Lesnar. But That's not what we get. Or if Benoit wasn't to face off against Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship, what I'm saying is that the title being on the line should be your first priority. And either way, that shouldn't be your opening contest. If you have a major championship, you shouldn't not neglect to put it on the line whenever you have the opportunity to do so. Otherwise, it makes your champion look weak and feeble. Straight out the gate, Hardcore Holly gets disqualified for shoving the ref, and A-Train off of a clothesline. A-Train off of a clothesline gets eliminated. Then JBL gets eliminated. Nathan Jones and Kurt Angle at the same time. The crowd cheers every time Benoit puts someone in the crossface. Brock Lesnar eliminated by Benoit, which was a huge deal at the time. And every time that Benoit would go for that crippler crossface, every time that he would apply it to Brock Lesnar, the crowd was just on their feet. Any other time, they could have been anywhere else. They could have been asleep. But whenever Benoit grapples this man and actually wrestles him to the ground, and keep in mind, Brock Lesnar, I hate to say this, is going to make me look bad, Brock Lesnar looked like a bitch getting drove to the ground like that. Brock Lesnar's supposed to be an NCAA wrestling champion, a 2 or 3 time NCAA wrestling champion. You would figure that he would be able to at least put up somewhat of a fight, or at least make it look like, I'm going to put this in air quotes, make it look like that he's putting up a fight with Chris Benoit, but instead, he's just like, oh no, don't put me in the crippler crossface, ow, and then he taps out, and then it's like, oh, you're supposed to be a 3-time NCAA wrestling champion. I didn't see no defense, boy. What happened to pivoting those hips? Where's those hips? Those hips were on the ground. That's where those hips were. Anyway, Cena with a chain around his fist gets Big Show to lay down. And at the end of the match, you see Benoit extending his hand to John Cena. And Benoit says something that he said to Cena at the WrestleMania pay-per-view 2 years later. Oh, never mind. I'm an idiot. Oh my God. Why did I say that? Okay. Benoit said something that he would say to Randy Orton this was 2003. Okay, so at the SummerSlam 2004, if I remember correctly, where Benoit would face off against Randy Orton, if I remember correctly. But anyway, he said this during that match and during the other match, the SummerSlam 04 match and this one, Survivor Series 03, he looked straight at John Cena, as well as he did in the SummerSlam match. Oh my God, why am I getting SummerSlam and Survivor Series mixed up? He would look his opponent in the eye, in this case, John Cena, or not his opponent, his tag team partner, in the eye, in this case John Cena, and he would shake his hand. But Cena, reluctant to want to shake this man's hand, he said, be a man. Be a man. And then he puts out his hand. He would also do the same thing to Randy Orton after Orton would beat him for the world title and become the youngest world heavyweight champion in history, would Randy Orton. In the company's history, at least. I'll talk about what Cena said at the start of the match. match. So Cena had this little rap going wherever he said that he would trade in all of his tag team partners for a one-night stand with Sable. Vince and Shane segment, where Vince says it's ironic a father and a son will be facing two brothers tonight. Vince asks Shane how he's feeling, and he says he's feeling sorry for you. So, in other words, he's feeling sorry for his father because his dad has to face off against The Undertaker in a buried alive match. One match that I remember being called a bury me alive match, not a buried alive match, but I could be just splitting hairs here and remembering stuff wrong. And then Vince sees Steve Austin in the hallway as he's walking away from Shane McMahon's locker room. And they both look at each other and they do this big giggle, almost like they're looking at each other straight in the eyes. And McMahon looks at Austin and Austin looks over at McMahon, and they're just... and they're both giggling, right? They're both like just chuckling away, and it got to me. I gotta say, I started laughing too. And it was so funny. And then Austin just stops, looks at McMahon, and then just walks away. After like a moment of silence, he just walks away. And McMahon, not wanting to give Steve Austin, like, you know, his back, I'm guessing. He's like, I'm watching my back. He like looks at him the entire time that the camera's there. Swear. And then we get the women's championship match. Oh. But before that, we get a word from Brock Lesnar. I gave this match 4 out of 5 stars. The traditional elimination tag team match. I felt as though that it could have been done a lot better, but there was no like major interferences. And the ending was really nice too. And one other nitpick that I want to make, the Big Show being the United States champion, the title looked really small on him. I mean, like, just like a toy in his hands. Because it was so small that he couldn't, you know how usually they come out, they're like on their midsection. He couldn't put it around his midsection, and it was so small that the United States Championship couldn't even fit around his shoulder all the way. So, no matter how he tried to wear it, it didn't look good at all. They talk about the, how many wrestlers in that match have had broken necks, or how many wrestlers on this event, rather, that have had broken necks. And I made a list. Lita, Austin, Benoit, Angle, Holly, John Cena, later on in life, would break his neck. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 broken necks. Now, whenever I was growing up, I was always told that if you break your neck, you die. But of course, they never really told me that you have to sever your trachea from your spinal cord. What they did tell me was that if you break your neck, you're dead. They lied. But it's fine. I don't plan on being paralyzed, or for that matter, having a broken neck anytime soon, despite the fact that statistics show that it is the most common injury in professional wrestling. The second most common injury? Torn ACL. Anyway, the next match, oh yeah, Brock Lesnar had an interview. I didn't write this one down, but it was so memorable that I didn't have to write it down because, well, for whatever reason, Josh Matthews pulls Brock Lesnar aside and then he's like, Brock, what do you got to say about your loss tonight? And then he's like, I didn't lose. And then it was just like, wait, what? Were you watching the same match that I was? You got tapped out by Chris Benoit. Yeah. You little bitch. You got eliminated, therefore you lost. You little bitch. You know, like, I'm sitting here wondering, who gave this man a microphone? Because he doesn't deserve a microphone. He's like, look, I didn't lose, all right? And then they're all, I mean, the crowd is going crazy. They're saying, you tapped out. You tapped out. Anyway, I should get to the next match. Lita versus Molly Holly, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. There really were no spots in this match worth writing down. Like nothing major that said, oh shit, I need to write that down. But it was a pretty decent match by both women. Both women are really good performers, really good wrestlers, and for that matter, really great in-ring work by both women. For the women's championship match, if I remember correctly, Molly Holly retained her title. The next match on the docket is an ambulance match. Now, the goal of an ambulance match is to throw your opponent into the back of the ambulance, shut the doors, and the ambulance will drive off to the hospital or something of that nature is what they keep saying is the ambulance will drive to the hospital. I would imagine that knowing what I know now is that the ambulance would probably just drive you to the parking lot, you know, and then that's about it, you know. Hey boys, thanks for a good day's work. I don't know how much money it would cost to rent an ambulance for a wrestling venue. Yeah, I mean, you got me, but they got more money than I do, because I certainly wouldn't want to do that. A dramatic opera music. You know that song that you usually hear? I'm going to try my best to do it, but I'm going to try my best to do it justice. It's like E-A-O-E, E-A-O-E, ne, no, ne, no, ne, no. It's like that dramatic opera music. It's almost like generic opera music. Like, oh man, if I knew who sung it, I swear it's like a Susan Boyle song or something. Even though it was around before, you know, Susan Boyle was around. And plus, she only sold one album. That's it. The woman got, I won't say all the talent in the world, because I don't know how much talent, if any, that she does have. But I guess it's just because she's old. And not only is she old, but also she's like, what, can she sing? I don't know. Jesus, Simon. Good sign, you know. Good sign, Simon. Kane and Shane go back and forth as, okay, so this whole thing started whenever Linda McMahon came to Monday Night Raw for one night, and she was like talking or saying something, making announcements or whatever, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, Linda McMahon got by Kane. Kane chokeslams her off of the rampway, and whenever he does next week, he had to like face his consequences. So Shane McMahon comes up to him and then he's like, Kane, now you're going to pay for what you did to my mother or whatever. And then he was like, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to send you packing and I'm going to do it in an ambulance match. Because why would we have a regular wrestling match? That's my question. Why wouldn't we have some sort of on a pole match or a ladder match or a last man standing match, a Hell in a Cell match? Why not trap yourself in a fucking cage with him if you're so mad at him? A lot of this doesn't really make sense. Why do you need an ambulance match of all things? But I understand. You were trying to be creative. You were trying to throw caution to the wind and say, you know what? Aside from the traditional things that usually get done around here, why don't we do something that's not too traditional? Why don't we do something that they've probably never seen before? I mean, we've seen something like it. We've seen something called a stretcher match. But a stretcher match and an ambulance match are two very different things. And go back and forth as Linda McMahon gets tombstoned. Holy shit chants, we want blood chants. Like, people were literally chanting, we want blood. I'm not sure why they would want blood, but they did get it. Kane was bleeding from his mouth a little bit. I assume that he'd need stitches, and Shane McMahon was bleeding from his forehead and from his lip just a little bit. 4 out of 5 stars because of the physicality, because of the fact that these two put on a wonderful, wonderful performance. And just everything that they, I want to take the time here, and I'm going to be the person to take the low blow. Sami Zayn can't compete with this. Zayn probably couldn't put on a halfway decent match, let alone a stretcher match. Or an ambulance match, for that matter. There's no way, no chance in hell that he's even on the level as far as personality, as far as charisma. These are all attributes that you're going to need to be a professional wrestler. And he lacks in these departments. There's no way that he has any sort of indication about how to be anything like Kane was. Psychopath that got set on fire probably 3, 4, 5 different times and lived to tell about it. In the build to this match, he got set on fire once because there was a burning dumpster behind him, and Shane McMahon pushed him into the burning dumpster, and he still lived to tell about it. And also, in the build to this match, he also Kane also got crashed into a tractor trailer, but once again, that didn't do anything. I remember watching that one live too, whenever I was 10 years old, maybe. And I remember looking at my grandma, and I remember asking her if we can lock the doors tonight, because I don't want Kane coming through the door. I was so afraid of this man. Just stuff that leaves a lasting impression on your psyche. interview from Brock Lesnar, which I've already talked about. Coach got a 3D from the Dudley Boys on Raw before the event. And Mark Cuban is in the house. He's looking forward to seeing Stone Cold kick Eric Bischoff's ass. So what happens was the Jonathan Coachman comes out, and then he starts talking about how the doctor, despite the physicality that we just seen, and you would figure that he was talking about the ambulance match between Kane and Shane. No, he was talking about the physicality that the Dudleys did to him last week. He comes out wearing a neck brace, and then he's like, oh, but the doctors say that the coach is A-okay and going to be okay. Well, anyway, after he's done tooting his own horn for whatever fucking reason, he sees Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. He sees Cuban out in the audience, and he decides it's a good idea to go ridicule Mark Cuban and ask him a few questions. Hey, Cuban, what are you looking forward to tonight? And then he says, I'm looking forward to seeing Steve Austin whip Eric Bischoff's ass, which is a match that we'll get to later, which is the co-main event, I do believe. Randy Orton comes out, RKO's Mark Cuban. Celebration in the locker room of Evolution as the girls feeling Triple H, and Ric Flair says he can't get weak in the knees just yet. And then they start toasting like the champagne. Of course, it's a premature celebration. I mean, no one really knows what's going to happen in your World Heavyweight Championship match just yet. And the WWE Tag Team Championships are on the line as the Basham brothers, your champions, that is Danny and Doug. I only knew one of their names coming into this, so I had to write both of their names down. I only knew that there was one named Danny, didn't know that there was one named Doug, versus Los Guerreros of, well, I remember Los Guerreros being La Familia, not Los Guerreros, but Los Guerreros, of course, is Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero. The Basham's manager gets spanked in a fast-paced back and forth where it's hard to keep up with. I feel as though that Danny and Doug Basham are twins, and for me, I can't tell neither one of them apart. You'll notice something nowadays. Whenever there's a twin in WWE, they'll have some distinction. Take Jimmy and Jay, for instance. Early in the year, rather, not earlier this year, but early years of the Usos would see that one of them would have their face paint on one side of their face, and the other one would have the face paint on the other side of their face. Or one of them would have their shirt off, or one of them would have different color hair. You know, one distinction so that commentary over there doesn't get flustered and all messed up whenever they try to say, and now it's Jimmy in the ring, whenever, you know, true fans would know. There are fans out there who know the difference between the little girls, those two fucking little girls, Mary Kate and Ashley, and they look completely identical. And I mean, from the size to their hair to everything, like, there are people out there who actually know the difference between Mary Kate and Ashley. And apparently, I didn't know this, but they were two little girls who played one role in Full House. How in the hell did that happen? While one of them was taking a lunch break, the other one got to, you know, maybe talk to John Stamos. What? Anyway, I'm getting off track here. This whole Sami Zayn situation. That's what I'm going to blame everything on. I swear to God, if I wake up tomorrow and the sun comes up, oh, it's got to be Sami Zayn's fucking fault. And now we come to just that match that I was just talking about. As Team Bischoff, comprised of Y2J, Chris Jericho, Mark Henry, Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, and that's the first and last time you're going to hear me call him Big Papa Pump, Christian, Randy Orton makes up Team Bischoff. And Team Austin is made up of Booker T, Shawn Michaels, Rob Van Dam, Bubba Ray, and Devon Dudley. We get a tables chant as Scott Steiner starts this match off with Devon Dudley. Devon starts off with Christian, my fault. And the point of this, of course, is the fact that if Austin loses his match, then Austin is fired from being co-GM of Monday Night Raw. And for that matter, he, as we all know, can't wrestle anymore because of his bum neck. So that means that he would be out of the WWF for good, and fans really don't want to see that. It'd be a fan's worst nightmare. We get a tables chant. Scott Steiner's the first one out. Booker T's the second one out. Mark Henry's the third one out. And let me tell you, it took 3 people to take Mark Henry out. It took both of the Dudleys and a 5-star frog splash. So whenever they had Mark Henry out, like Rob Van Dam got... So after the 5-star frog splash, what ended up happening was Devon jumped on Mark Henry, and then after that Bubba jumped on Devon, and they sort of dogpiled the 3 count, which is in tag team wrestling, that's illegal. So the referee should have admonished them for having multiple men on the same team in the ring at the same time. But at this point, I'm just splitting hairs, It's not important. Mark Henry's the third one out. RVD is the fourth one out. Devon is the 5th contestant out. Bubba Ray is the 6th one out. Christian is the 7th one out. HBK, and that was the last Team Austin member to, Shawn Michaels tried. He almost eliminated everyone, but what happened was Jericho got so mad, so pissed off, so heated practically, that he had lost and he was eliminated, that he decided it was a good idea to take a chair and beat Michaels upside the head with it, and then he gave Austin the finger and practically walked away as if that was supposed to be the final nail in Steve Austin's coffin. Proverbial coffin, of course. And as he's walking away, and as Randy Orton goes to pin Shawn Michaels, Michaels kicks out. And sure enough, Jericho doesn't come back down to do anything like that. Whenever Austin sees that Eric Bischoff's getting involved, Austin chases Bischoff up the ramp, and of course he's beating the holy dog shit out of him the entire time, and he's trying to tell him not to get involved, and Austin hits Orton with a stunner to even things up, seeing as though that Jericho hit HBK with a chair. And you think, Shawn Michaels has this one won. I mean, and they keep talking about the fact that his whole entire career, Steve Austin has went on this DTA, don't trust anyone. But now, tonight, he has to put his trust in 5 other men. And, it's kind of ironic. It's an ironic twist that you didn't see coming. Unfortunately, Batista would roll into the ring. Batista would give the Batista bomb to a beaten, bloodied Shawn Michaels and drape Randy Orton over Shawn Michaels' lifeless body. 1, 2, 3. Eric Bischoff's team would pick up the victory. Shortly after, we get a Coach who decides it's a good idea to come out and gloat. And Coach decides that it's a good idea to come out and gloat. And whenever he does, he basically pays for it. As I said before, Coach is wearing a neck brace. Coach is in no condition to be, roughhousing with anyone. Or at least that's what he says. He comes out and then he's like, nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye. So he's singing the goodbye song, the goodbye hymn or whatever it's called. And Austin opens up a can of whoop-ass one last time. Not only on the Jonathan Coachman, but also onto the security guards who flanked him. So Austin's career is over as we know it. At least that's what they want to tell you. Talk about AJ versus Taker. So the final time that we've seen AJ Styles, or that we've seen The Undertaker rather, in a Buried Alive match was in something known as a Boneyard match on The Undertaker's compound, or someone's compound. We're led to believe it's The Undertaker's compound because they don't tell us anything other than that. And this is a Buried Alive match as The Undertaker faces off against Mr. McMahon. It shows highlights from No Mercy where, in a biker chain match, where the goal was to pick the chain from the pole that the chain was hanging from. For whatever reason, Vince McMahon thought that it was a good idea to shove The Undertaker off of the top rope while he was trying to retrieve the biker chain match and achieve the win in a biker chain match, rather. As long as I'm breathing, you will never be WWE champion, is what Vince McMahon says. And in response, The Undertaker says, well, maybe you just took your last breath. 11/16/2003 is the 13th year anniversary. The Undertaker, McMahon bleeds. So here's the funny part. The match begins. They ring the bell, right? Ding, ding. And what ends up happening is Undertaker hits McMahon one time. And then after that, he regrets it immediately because he's like, damn, what's he got? Like a brick in his face? Because he's like, ow, my hand hurts. And then after that, he punches him one more time, right? McMahon just starts bleeding. And I mean, like, not little bitty blood here and there. Oh, dang, he opened him up. No, I mean, he actually almost looks like he's covered in blood. I don't know how one hit can do that to somebody. But Undertaker promised that The Undertaker promised that Mr. McMahon will not be breathing after tonight. McMahon bleeds after the second punch. This is the 4th buried alive match in history, according to Michael Cole. And all 4 matches have involved The Undertaker. So if that's the 4th, I think, if I remember correctly, the 1st was against Steve Austin. Now, I could be wrong about that. As we go to our... Oh, yeah. Hang on one second. Let me get that rating. I guess it's important. Kane versus Shane was 4 out of 5 stars. Los Guerreros versus the Bashams was 3.5 out of 5 stars. Three and a half out of 5 stars. And the Buried Alive match was 3 out of 5 stars. Honestly, there wasn't a bad match, really, on this card. I just feel as though that a lot of these could have been, I wouldn't say position of the card, but, and one thing that does bother me is this main event right here. Now, the main event is basically your classic champion versus non-champion trope. As we go to Goldberg, our World Heavyweight Champion, versus Triple H. Now, as I told you before, Evolution was in the back. They were celebrating. They were toasting to the wine that they had in their hands, or it wasn't wine, it was champagne. I don't know why everybody consistently has to... I believe in a sober world, but I don't know why everyone can't see things my way. You know, it's sometimes upsetting. As the World Heavyweight Championship is on the line and our champion Goldberg faces off against Triple H, there was a lot of interference in this match. A lot of interference. Goldberg is a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, and I wrote the book on kicking ass, is what Triple H says. Also, he said something similar years later to Seth Rollins, who was also the, quote, one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. Except he said, "I got news for you, Seth. You're the one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, and looks like you're not going to be able to win." Something like that. Okay, so it says here that I should bring up Ric Flair and Harley Race, because Harley Race put up a $25,000 bounty on Ric Flair. Well, Triple H did you one better, Harley Race. Triple H put up a $100,000 bounty on Goldberg for anyone who could injure him, and he came into this match with an injury. His left leg, for whatever reason, had tape around it, almost like a bullseye, and it's because Batista put a chair, wrapped it around that left ankle, and then he just went to beating on it. This match had a lot wrong with it. I give it 2 out of 5 stars. It wasn't that entertaining. It was kind of entertaining at times, but I feel as though that they could have done it a lot better. And Jim Ross, he closes the night by saying, you guys have to hear this one, okay? He closes the match, the entire night, by saying, "Who's your daddy tonight? Who's your daddy tonight?" I don't know how to feel about that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, especially if you lived through it like I did. I can remember being terrified of Kane growing up, just not wanting him to be anywhere near me. But now, he's like a politician. So, think about that. You know, some 7 foot, 325 pound monster back in 2003 is now the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. And also I hope, and I really hope that that joke that I told at the beginning of the episode went through, because it's kind of funny in a way. You know, kind of poking fun at Dolph Ziggler for, I guess, not having a title belt in his house. Because usually whenever you win a belt, usually you get to keep like a version of that title in your house as like a trophy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all the time that I have for you on this glorious Saturday morning. Good night. And that's a wrap. That's a wrap. Good night, everybody.